All right, here we go. So,
Hey, hey.
anyone who's watching, I'm here with Karim Sinno. I hope I've pronounced this correctly, because yeah, awesome. Also, it can be found at the Audio Loft. This is your business name, right?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Karim,
Registered here in Amsterdam as well.
yeah, Amsterdam. I think when we were working together, you were back in Lebanon. Right?
Yeah, I just moved here a few months
Yeah,
ago getting set up.
awesome. So, anyone who doesn't know, Karim is we'll call you the co-producer and mixing engineer, and yeah, has been with my right-hand man throughout the whole project of this, helping me bring this album to life, A Shadow of My Future Self, which is out on November the 19th. And I'm super excited to be chatting with you, Karim, and sort of going through some of the memories of putting this stuff together, and having a deeper dive into maybe a couple of the tracks a bit later. Um, tell us
Look,
tell us how you're
looking
doing, and
forward.
let's just discuss like how we met and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess I got a call out of nowhere from a good friend of mine, Seaman Sadness, who was playing drums on your album. Like he called me up. He was like, "Are you interested in auditioning for this?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" I've been a fan of your work for a very long time, obviously, and I've enjoyed listening to the Hake and stuff. And Seaman, from the get go, he was like, "This is not a prog album. Be prepared. This is not gonna be a prog album." And either way, I was just super excited to be on board, and we connected online and we started talking and discussing a few ideas, listening to the
Yeah,
demos. So it was a pretty exciting thing to be on board. Such an interesting project because it was like I've been doing prog for a while, and I most of the stuff I listen to is in the metal genre. So this was really fun because this is the stuff I would love to work on, but I don't frequently get to work on. So that was exciting for me as well. Getting to do the '80s sound and like the big arena rock sound. It's something that doesn't get called upon very frequently these days. So that was fun.
yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, I mean, it was a challenge for everyone, really, to do this. Yeah, Seaman was the common link, really, for a
Yeah.
lot of this stuff. He put me in touch with some of the other musicians. We had Blaise Mephian doing some of the brass work, and Christian Frostad, who did some sort of lap steel guitar for me, and so he's a very well connected guy. And yeah, he introduced me to you because I was initially struggling to understand who I was going to have mix the record. I had a few options, but yeah, I mean, he really recommended you, and obviously I looked into the stuff you were doing, and like you said, there's a lot of the modern prog metal stuff. Um, so I had to kind of really consider if you were the right person for the job, but I did want this modern sound as much as this does have callbacks to 80s 90s music, like yeah, what you've worked on with Seaman in the past, was the kind of energy that I wanted on the record. So yeah, it was. I'm glad he put me in touch with you, because really it was a match made in heaven in the end. 'Cause
Yeah,
honestly, what
it
you
was an
what
amazing, amazing
well,
experience.
Karim, you went above and beyond for me, especially with sort of the guitar side of things. That was something I was very anxious about in the beginning, because I'd not recorded guitar properly for any of the on any of the Haken albums or anything like that. So yeah, it was a new adventure for me and a challenge as well. So yeah, we can have a discussion about like the processes there, because that
Yeah, everything was from the beginning. It was from what I recalled, from early on, you were concerned about this not. You didn't want this to sound metal for sure. I remember you telling me I don't want this to sound metal. But obviously, you wanted it to sound modern. It needs to fit into the context that we're in.
Oh, totally, because I was on the back of two albums, Haken's Virus and the debut Novena album, which were both like, very heavy records, produced in a certain way, and it was deliberate. I deliberately wanted to be this album to be far removed from that. So yeah, that was an important first step. So we discussed a few kind of influences as well, didn't we? And production wise.
Definitely. We went through them song by song, if I recall. Like,
Yeah.
what do you feel like for this, for this, for this? We didn't really reference those later on, but they were still in the back of our heads, at least in the back of your head more than mine, probably. I was following your guide. Like, you guided me through how you wanted things, how you imagined things, and I had to figure out how to implement that.
That's true. I mean, how important is? I mean, I'd not really done that before on any record, to be honest. Certainly from a production point of view, look at other materials and I mean, how important is that for you in your process, really?
Well, the thing is, a lot of the times I do throw out all of those quote unquote references because you could like dive so deep into those and get obsessed about mimicking a sound, while your production is not that. It's like if you're copying X or Y or Z's album, you're not them. You're not going to sound like them no matter what you do or what you try. So maybe early on I do listen to them and I keep that in the back of my head. But when it comes to mixing, I just like go free and hope I actually hit the mark. A few of the times, even on this album, I was a bit off. I remember like a couple of the songs, I didn't hit I didn't get the song right, and you were like, just back off, take a step back. I think it was on the softer songs, the more I think Rocket Science was one of those. Like I didn't nail it from the beginning, and you were like, just tone it down. I was being too aggressive with the sound. I just wanted everything to sound big and bombastic, and those songs just are not that.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an eclectic record, and I think you do have to ride that wave a little bit. There's some that really warranted that approach, and some maybe not so much. But yeah, that's part of the journey. It was interesting because we were looking at sort of the 90s or 2000s post-rock kind of vibe. We were looking at Hoobastank and almost like Nickelback production, that kind of thing initially, weren't we?
Yeah, the alt rock era, the big
alt rock
sound. Yeah.
Don't let that put anyone off, by the way. Doesn't sound like a Nickelback record in the end.
No, it has nothing to do with that. But yeah, we did maybe benchmark that, but we never actually did that sound.
No. But yeah, it was a fascinating part of understanding what the record might sound like. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was fun, giving each song its own moment, and yet at the end making them all fit together on one album, like sounding, transitioning seamlessly from one to the other, which was really cool and was a nice experience for me. Just like jumping from a very intimate, mellow song into a full band thing, then into a prog thing, then into something more emotional. Just jumping back and forth and having them all fit in was a challenge at some point, but it was really fun. It was a learning experience for me as well.
So you had my demos, obviously, initially. My expertise in production is really pretty much non-existent, but the intentions were all there. So how helpful was that?
Actually, your demos are pretty close to, at least for what I expect to hear demos, they were there. I just don't enjoy programmed drums personally when we were talking about demos. That's the only part that I don't enjoy. But other than that, I think the demos did the song some justice. Maybe the guitar tones were not there early on because you were just using random guitar tones just to get your ideas through.
Yeah.
But I could get the idea of what you were going after.
Yeah, I'd actually got the Nolly, what do you call it? I've forgotten the Neural DSP Nolly version for the interface for the guitar tones for my demo. So that was a really nice gift from him actually to kind of. But I at the time I hadn't really explored it, so I was just using a lot of the default tones, maybe tweaking a few things here and there, but. Yeah, they were pretty much like kind of the default distortion tones that were on there, and slapping those on, they sounded close to what I wanted. And yeah, like I said, it was the intention
Yeah,
Um,
but some a few things did make it to the album. I think from Grounded, we did take a few things
yeah,
from the demos.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, some of the cleaner sounds, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a nice bank of sounds on there. I think it's really impressive. Um,
yeah, I haven't gotten the chance to try
software
it
to
out yet.
use, but yeah, that was what I used from the demos to get the intentions across. And yeah, program. I mean, technically this is a lockdown project, so I didn't have really access to like any live drums here in my home or anything like that, and all kind of keyboard sounds were MIDI as well. Um, so yeah, that was just the way it had to be, really. And then
Worked.
when I got the opportunity, I had the musicians came in and did their thing on live instruments. But yeah, drums were first. Obviously, we had Siemens material come through first, and I think these were the first. I mean, even really early on in the process, you were working on the drums and giving me regular updates. Actually, I mean,
Yeah,
I
because
think
everybody had to build on those.
everyone had to build on those. Yeah, and from experience though, I would never really get those tracks that early on in the process. Like the production all kind of happens at one time, but we spread this out across quite a few months in the end. So like I really appreciated that because yeah, I had a lot of time to reflect on these things that you worked on. Yeah, I mean that was something you went really above and beyond on, in my opinion, and also building the guitar tones for me as well. Can you talk a little bit about what you used for guitars in the end?
Yeah, that was really really fun. I knew I could not use a metal tone, so I just and you're using a Strat, so we were already in a different sector of sounds than classical mesa boogie or 5150 sound. So it was more of a like overdriven, not very metal. Maybe Violet was on the heavier, like the
Yeah,
heaviest tone we had on the album. But the rest were like all kind of a Marshall tone,
yeah,
warm, rounded tone. And from the beginning, I think it was a conscious decision that I made that probably all my gear had to focus on your voice. Everything had to like being a pop record, working with a lot of
mm,
pop music, and before that is in a completely different side of my life. Vocals are key, and vocals tend to be in pop, or at least maybe the pop that I've worked on, like even 2 or 3 dBs louder than what you have on your album.
yeah,
So the vocals are very, very crucial to making the song work, especially like when you were talking something eclectic, personal, intimate to you. Your voice had to shine.
yeah,
So I spent so much time on your voice, and from that I crafted the rest of the sounds around that. Like I thought the guitar should not be very present, should not like fight with the vocals for space in the mix. I Your vocals had to have their big space there, and then everything works around that. That's how I imagine things, and that's how I made your tones. They were on the darker side. They were like filling the wall of sound instead of actually hearing, especially the rhythm, the main rhythm guitars. Just like they were filling the gap. They were like doing their job, not very upfront. At least not when they needed to be.
yeah. It was delicately done, and rightfully so, because this obviously being a solo record for a vocalist. Yeah, I mean, I think that's something we talked about earlier on as well. Was it did have to focus on me as a singer, but it was really important for me to dust off the cobwebs on my guitar skills as well, because guitar was my first instrument. You know, when coming into the music, making it as a sort of career. That was my first thing. Vocals came second, but obviously now I'm known as a vocalist, so it's kind of flipped on its head. But yeah, the guitar choice was quite. It was more of a sentimental choice than maybe a practical choice. I don't own a lot of guitars actually, but there was one special guitar, which is my Stratocaster, which is on the album cover, which I used for everything, except for obviously the acoustic guitar tracks that I did. And there was a gift that was given to me on my wedding actually, from two members of an old band I was in, Rodados, and yeah, it's just like a really sentimental thing that I wanted to make sure that was on the record. And the point of that really was because there's a lot of songs that were very personal about my relationships and stuff like this. So that was I felt like that had to be done, but we obviously talked about pickups and the guitar, obviously Strat being single coil, and maybe for the heavier tracks the humbucker pickups would have given more of that warmer, fuller tone, but I think got away with it with some of the production that you put into
We
it.
worked around it.
Yeah, it worked
for sure.
I think I'll elaborate my sort of guitar palette on the next record. But yeah, it felt like that was important to me, so that was
Yeah, you told me you made it. You were like, I would love to play this guitar on the album. Can you make it work?
Yeah.
I remember you telling me something along those lines. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot. I reamped it, and especially I think maybe Feelings, or was it the was it Violet that we needed to test this on? I think it was Violet as well, because this that is the heavy song with the biggest riff. So
Yep.
that had to work. If that works, probably everything else would have worked.
Yeah.
So I just shoved distortion and like some aggressive EQ to make it sound close to a humbucker.
Yeah.
And Nathan on bass just drove the thing through. Like
Yeah.
his tones are massive. His sound without anything on it just sounds big.
Oh, absolutely. He really filled up those low ends, and that sounded incredible. So grateful for what he did on that record as well.
Yeah, he's a beast.
But yeah, talking vocals, I didn't actually do these at home. The vocals were all recorded in Brighton. I had an engineer I used on the Novena records. This guy is called Paul Winstanley, or he's known as Win. And we hired a Neumann U87, kind of the classic standard professional vocal mic that everyone uses. But it's for a reason, it sounds awesome. I think it really lend it to my vocal tone quite well. How did you find those audio tracks when they were delivered to you?
No, they were no. Actually, if you look at the session, I have the session opened up for later.
Yeah.
There is some corrective EQ, but after that, like from a creative side, I would barely do anything on your vocals, because just like clean up the stuff just because of carving space in a dense mix. But from there on, it's just like the fine touches here and there, some brightness, some presence, and that's it. Like these are relatively some of the easier vocals I've ever dealt with, so
wow.
it was fine. Yeah, comparing like to the SM7 that we did something else on at a later stage, that that required a lot more from me to make it sound polished, or like comparing the two together, like to make one sound like the other.
Right. Was that the
it was much higher.
Was that the Christmas song we did? Yeah. The Mariah Carey. Yeah, I didn't have the budget to hire that mic just for a Christmas song. But,
and you shouldn't. That was for fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I know that Win put a lot of attention into the preamps he uses, and he likes to record things in a very organic way and capture things as they should be, like without too much editing required afterwards. So that's really good to know. Yeah.
Definitely, I love I really enjoy it, especially like the song that nobody knows yet, Better Times.
Mm-hmm.
That song had to be recorded really well for it to sound good. No amount of editing or mixing would make that song sound good if it was not tracked properly.
Yeah, we actually built that one, including the acoustic guitars, at Win Studio. From scratch, so that wasn't demoed at home or anything. That's it was nerve-wracking because this is time in the studio where you have to pay by the hour, so it's one of those situations where you don't have the luxury of taking your time at home. You just got to get it right in the studio. So that was a challenge for me. I love all these new challenges. That was a big part of this record. the theme about self-improvement, which governs the whole record, and that's what it was all about for me. And maybe you learnt some things along the way, maybe not. I don't know if it's
Definitely
gave you new tools for the future.
definitely working. And I did not create, obviously I'm not creating these techniques, but like I did find ways to make the problem, to solve problems that I wanted, like how I wanted things to sound, especially like I mentioned earlier, carving out your vocals very properly, how to treat guitar tones. I learned a few things from some of my mixing idols as well, on like how you imagine a guitar tone, for example, and how a guitar tone sits in the context of a very dense mix. And we're not talking metal, because metal, there a lot of the times you're fine with clashes between vocals and guitars, because like you want everything hammering your face. Yeah. But on polished, radio-friendly rock songs, things tend to be treated a bit differently. Like a lot of things take a step back for the vocals, or for the center stage, which is tend to be like kick, snare, bass, and vocals. That's it, and everything else goes to the sides.
Yeah, I think you did a stellar job with dealing with that. You came across exactly how I imagined it, so, and more, and then some. Were there any challenges? What was the most challenging track, do you think?
I think you know that by now. It's The Apologist.
Oh, I wasn't going to say that. No, I wasn't going to. I would have thought the Phoenix, the longer track, maybe. Or...
No, definitely not the Phoenix. It's I think it's Young at Heart and The Apologist, because those are maybe two songs that I didn't connect with personally as much.
Right. Yeah.
So I've noticed that with myself, like when I do not connect with a song personally, it makes it much harder for me to mix it. Even if it's a genre I don't enjoy, I'll find something to enjoy in a song. But you cannot love every song on every album. You have to be honest with yourself about that.
No, I remember that you were referring to it as the dark horse on the album or something like that.
Yeah, Black Sheep.
And I was just adamant it had to be on there. But I mean, from the reviews that are coming through so far,
they love it.
That's a track that people are latching onto. I think it's because of the
aggression,
the sort of the Porcupine Tree elements, maybe the connection to the prog world. That could be why. But
yeah, like I see the reviews for. I keep reading the reviews that you're getting for the album, and I'm super happy that it's resonating the way it is, because. We've been listening to this for quite a while, and we're waiting on this to be for the rest of the world to listen to.
Yeah, it does seem like an age ago, because obviously we worked through 2020 on this. It's been a whole year since. I mean, I've had the master in my hand since last October.
Wow.
Obviously, it's taken a while to find a way to put this out, but so yeah, I am scratching my brain a little bit, remembering some of these things, but. But yeah, it's just really cool now that it's finally unraveling and people are getting to hear it and getting the responses, and it's just
exciting times,
conjuring up all these nice memories and emotions that we went through a year ago. Really cool. So, did you want to go through any of the sort of the technical side of mixing one of the tracks and maybe digging?
I do have a couple of sessions open, prepped for today's chat. I even fired up although I'm not fully ready to mix or anything, but since these songs are mixed, we can play them here.
Yeah, no, I just figured maybe people might be interested to see the breakdown of the track. And
yeah, with pleasure from my side.
What hidden layers lie underneath.
Yeah, could you enable screen sharing on your end?
Oh, I'm very sorry. Yes, of course.
Ah, don't worry about it.
Let's do that now. Okay, brilliant. I think that should be good now.
Yeah, let me try. Yep, all good. Okay. You should be able to see my screen.
It's the mothership. Yeah.
Yep, that's a mothership. We're looking at Words We Cannot Say, the first single that came out.
Awesome.
Do you actually have a few things that you would like to talk about this song? Because this song was like a weird song with like having heavy rock elements with a brass section.
Yeah, it's a very mixed bag. Actually started off with the really bare bones of it on my demo, and then I started to experiment with some crazy sort of delay sounds and whatever on the vocals as well. I was trying to get some sort of I guess some sort of broken electronic, I don't know what to call it. Really, I was just experimenting with splitting up the vocals and having delays and things like that, and making them sound modern, I guess.
Yeah, we had to like recreate all of these
correct.
afterwards.
That was one element. It obviously it started off as kind of like a country song, so the kind of the chord progressions, particularly.
Bam 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 bam.
Well, yeah, I was going to say particularly in the chorus, it comes across more country. But
I didn't think it did it remain that way. Do you see it as
remain
country
that
by
way.
now?
Only because I know the origins, really. But
yeah, probably only you know that it was a country
yeah,
song.
the main hook was deliberately supposed to be like a kind of dancey, disco-y indie track, and I think some of the parts that Vikram offered in the end really helped to deliver that in the end.
Yeah, and he did he recreated the intro that you had in mind, which sounded like really cool. The telephone thing.
Starting with the drums, if you want to isolate things one by one, like I don't know how you want to do this.
Let's if we mute the rest, like the drum sound is.
These were pretty much as demoed, but obviously they sound better because they're live. And Seaman just gave it a bit of extra muscle, I think, in the end. But
okay, like this is.
Save for the intro. That was Vikram's intro, wasn't it?
That was Vikram's intro, and that was the first song we mixed after Better Times as well. Like this was one of the songs where we created the album sound with. Right. So we had to figure out a sound for the entire album just from this song. So I think we did a good job.
I seem to remember it was this and Feelings as well was another kind of one we were kind of paving the way for.
Yep.
For the whole sound.
So that was a big drum sound that we went for here, which is obviously there. Adding in the bass, which is very groovy. The entire groove is locked in, drums, bass, guitars, which sounds really good. We had to recreate your flange effect here, the intro sound that you had.
Yeah, it's a little bit different from the demo. I think I had more of a longer phase, but I quite liked what you did to it more in the end. It sounded better.
I don't remember how I did this. Let me see. Actually, I used there's the phase mistress, which the phaser doing all this effect.
I just loved how alien and robotic it sounded.
Yeah, just doing wobbling here and there. Vikram's keys coming in very nice.
Yeah, let's isolate those.
Yeah, like the Hammond that comes in the second lovely. Part of the verse. Yeah.
We may go through this with Vikram again at some point on his episode.
Okay, those are the brass. Okay, so. And he has a lot of things that are happening synced up as well. If we solo Vikram stuff here, like you could listen to, there's a lot more happening that you would think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than you would think.
Yeah, I think he's got like 10 tracks going on.
They're just subtle. Like if you mute them, you'd notice they're not there. But okay, and if you do the same part without those, like the thing becomes quite boring. Loses some of the production value that you have there.
It adds something, and And there's a potential remix album in there, I reckon, as well.
An electronic album waiting to happen there.
Exactly.
And then coming into the chorus where like everything goes full on brass section and everything all together. Let's mute the vocals just to listen to the music for a second, if you don't mind. Here, like the brass is amazing, the bass is grooving like crazy, the acoustic guitar strumming adds another dimension of like movement in that chorus. A lot of just small bits and pieces that build up together just to give that full thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers on all this, and the brass, by the way, Blasemathian, I think I'm pronouncing it incorrect. Blasemathian. The Norwegian trio, I think they are. And there wasn't a lot of communication with them, actually. It was kind of a strange transaction. But I sent them... They performed this really close to what I wrote. I mean, it's pretty much exactly what I had on my demo, but I had them as sort of just a stereo channel with these parts in unison, and... they arranged the parts to suit them, and it came.
I think it's really cool though. They sounded like
it works
making
great.
them fit into into the context of a rock band is already a challenge in itself.
Exactly. It's not this typical style of music that they do, so I think they were quite shy about being sort of publicized about this record, because it's completely removed from what they typically do, but they're professionals, and they delivered.
They did an amazing job, and they even have a solo in the song.
That's true.
Like if you see like that solo, it's all automated so that they like, because they had to get the center stage, and being an acoustic instrument of that type, it doesn't hold like an electric guitar of infinite sustain and constant unity gain all through. It just goes back and forth.
It was so important that was in the forefront. I think there is some sort of guitar licks
doubling,
underneath. Which I think I had more prominent in my demo mix. If you want to isolate that was...
Yeah, I think there's your solo and their solo at the same time here. It lets me solo both together.
Yeah.
I think I kept them on the sides and like focus your solo centered so that you both wouldn't fight with each other. But I think it's sounds like a solid solo section.
Absolutely, no, it's just killer. And then we move on to the 80s.
The bridge section. There's the ramp that you wanted to emphasize here, the brass ramp, and then the stabs that you wanted so loud. I remember.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that. I like the extremes in things, and that scoop up on there. There's another one at the end with the stabs. I think it happens again on another track with the strings.
I think like you,
ridiculous level.
Like I'm on the shy conservative side to have everything like flowing smoothly. You want the dramatic effects in every part, so that helped. So that pushed me like to find the solution.
I know you tried to put me off a few times, but I was.
You were adamant about it.
Yeah, that's it.
No making up for borrowed time. I start a fire just to
Van Halen.
You gotta go to return.
Those are
Yeah.
things that I really enjoy here, like the transitions from very heavy to soft sections. Those are tend to be tricky to nail
Yeah.
right, like heavy to soft and soft to heavy.
Mhm.
If you don't mix them right, like either it doesn't explode big enough, or the soft section is too quiet. You have to raise the volume to hear it. Those are I like those transitional parts
Yeah, I
quite
figured
a
that
lot.
would offer a real challenge for you actually. But, yeah, it's beautifully done, and like all those details that you'll hear now when you hear the track. This is for the people listening to this. It's a real reveal of the genius behind Vikram's parts and your mixing, Karim. It's very delicately done. I liked it.
We've talked about everything except your vocals so far. I think we
Okay.
should. Yeah, I think we should go into those because like they do sound like one voice, but there's actually a lot of backing vocals here happening.
Yeah.
Which one
This
do you want to
with
target?
aside from I think it was Third Degree, which is the only track that doesn't have BVs. And when I talk about BVs, I'm often actually imagining things as almost like 3-part harmonies that run throughout. So that was something I think we fought with a little bit, because I was often asking you to push up all these BVs, and they shouldn't really be called BVs. They should actually just be called harmonies, because that's what I was doing. But you were right in the end that there definitely needed to be sort of a one soul voice guiding it. There's obviously always a lead melody running throughout, and
But I think
but
we
but
worked it out.
yeah, we did work it out, and I'm such a fan of these 3-part harmony music and all this stuff. That's the country side of me that comes out.
Yeah, no, I do think it worked out.
It's one of my favourite things to do as a vocalist, is work those out. But let's hear what we've got.
Yeah, what was cool here as well, like how I was looking at those earlier to figure out how I treated your backing vocals as well. Like from Paul's standpoint, I remember you telling me like Paul wanted how he liked to treat BVs. He would center them and then give them a delay thing to spread them left and right. I did things a bit differently, but I didn't give it a full stereo spectrum. Like if you listen to the vocals, they're relatively narrow. Just like instead of going 100 left and right, they were like somewhere like here, like
Okay.
all in a bubble around your voice, so that they wouldn't eat up too much of everything else, and yet I could push them loud enough. Like if this is the first course, I think we're focused on. No, this is the second one. Anyway.
Words I can't unsay differ from the ones I mean. You're the loop in my delay and the ghost in my machine. Hesitate and dare to breathe. Only demons will prevail.
And every last word has a tail added to it, so
Right,
it extends a bit more, so it swells up.
Yeah, that really works. Yeah. One of the techniques I had with BVs, I think it was actually doubling tracks. I was using a technique where I would only pronounce the vowels and not the consonants, so that they wouldn't interfere. And that was something I recommend doing if you're
Yeah, that's.
tracking double vocals and harmonies. Well, so many
I
layers.
learned that from you.
Yeah, well, you can. Well, I learned it from Win. Actually, it was one of his techniques, and it really helps declutter all the consonants that are falling over themselves. That's.
No, because if you listen to the BVs, I do shave off all those highs, high mids, the consonants, and massive de-essing so that I don't hear multiple S's jumping left and right.
Oh, they're a big problem.
I can't unsay differ from the ones I mean. You're the loop in my delay and the ghost in my machine. Hesitate and dare to breathe.
Here they're relatively tamed because they're quite aligned, but in other songs when they would go left and right, I would cut off the S's from the backing vocals just so that I would not hear them. Nobody cares when the S rings at the end. You can hear from one vocal and it will be fine most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, some people like to keep that in because it's organic, and especially if you are. I know that. I mean, I can't talk about it too much, but the next project that's going to come out from me is with the Neil Morse and Nick DiVigilio, and we kept a lot of that stuff in because it was kind of a genuine three-part, three vocalists.
Yeah.
And, it seemed to work. But,
context
changes, and yeah, with this obviously being solo and having just these being backing vocals, it was important. Yeah. That's really cool. Do you want to dig up the other track, Grounded? I just figured we'll wrap this up pretty soon. I mean, it's been really interesting seeing this stuff dissected. So. But Grounded, I think I spoke about the a couple of moments, but particularly the long, dreamy section. I remember putting a hell of a lot of layers into that one, and it's very.
I kept them as is.
They're all very subtle, but I figured like people might want to might be interested in seeing what went into that section, particularly. And if you had any sort of tricks that you came up with and you want to talk about on that song.
I think this song has the doubling technique.
Okay.
Was it? I think the chorus for this song had the doubling technique, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see.
We could have a listen. Now. Yeah, I think people would be interested. Yeah, definitely.
And we also had there's a dreamy section where like we kept the original demo guitars because if I were to recreate them, I was gonna come up with the same exact thing. And you loved them and they worked, so we just EQ'd them in and left them as is. Yeah,
there's a couple of things that I kept vocally from the demos as well. Surprisingly, like there was a moment in Young at Heart, and this will make more sense when people hear the song, but there was a particular emotion that was coming through on my demo that I wasn't capturing in the studio. I mean, I was sounding in tune and everything, but there was just something wasn't quite right, so we stole that from the demo and all that. So demos can be really useful in those respects.
So we're talking about this course. Let's see where we're
lost as I'm found, miles apart, and I'm going nowhere far. I have never felt so.
There we go.
Yeah, you can hear the roundness of those consonants. And
yeah, shaved off. And in context, it's
lost as I'm found, miles apart, and I'm going nowhere fast. I have never felt so grounded.
Just add some thickness to the song. It thickens up the vocals very nicely if you listen to it in context. I'll take it out in the middle of this so you could hear what we lose.
Lost as I'm found, miles apart, and I'm going nowhere fast. I have never felt so grounded. Stuck in my ways as it starts. I can feel you breathing just enough to trust that love is
there. Again, it's one of those things you like don't notice unless you take it out. Like it sounds so weird with one vocal when I take the others out.
This it's just the beauty of that's the difference between live and studio. You know, that's you can do these things and really beef up. Use these techniques to beef up sounds.
And there's the solo part that with the Gilmore-ish thing that we went back and forth on tone with.
Mm-hmm.
I think we nailed it great tone here.
Is it something given only when I'm ready to live without seeing? Honest, I feel nothing of it calling, but I want it more than I am willing to admit. Staring blindly.
You want to isolate that guitar solo?
And you can see all that intimate automation to work around your vocals as well.
Yeah, I seem to remember like your initial bounce of this. You had this really, really clean sound with no sort of gain on it at all, and yeah,
Very little
it
gain.
was actually really lovely. But yeah, I was adamant to execute my vision for it, and the Pink Floyd being and Gilmour being the obvious reference for this whole track, actually. But I mean, I say that unashamedly. Really, it's Pink Floyd were, especially the latter part years of Pink Floyd, anyway. A big part of my makeup in the '90s, sort of getting into music. So big influence on the guitar.
And then who better than to imitate them the best? So no harm there.
No harm there. No, I'm not ashamed of it. But yeah, it was just a case of adding some gain, and what did you do to?
Yeah, I think
that?
it was a bit on the cleaner side. Just drive the amp a bit more.
Yeah.
And like your demo had a lot more gain than this, and mine was uber clean. So like we found
met
some
in the middle
ground.
Cool.
Yeah, you wanted to sustain more. I think the clean wasn't sustaining; it was dying out much sooner than you wanted it to, if I'm not mistaken. I think the clean for this song was painful for us to nail properly as well, wasn't it? I think we were having intonation and tuning issues with this one.
Possibly, and on Phoenix as well. I think I was hitting chords a bit funny, and they were. This is just a Strat, so I'm not using Evertune or any of these fancy functions you have on modern guitars now. But yeah, it's a pretty old school, and sometimes that anomaly adds something. I don't know, like if everything's perfectly tuned, it doesn't sit well with my brain sometimes. But obviously it has to be in tune. But just a different approach.
These are all your parts. Original bridge. You can see like this is.
I see.
This is called original bridge. Do not touch.
Do not touch.
I think it just has an EQ on it, just like clean up where this is the EQ. Just clean up some of the frequencies to fit it in them. That's all I did to this stuff. Nothing else.
Fair enough.
You wanted to solo this?
Yeah, let's show people what's in the mix here. I lay it over several different sort of time signatures and things and different patterns. Different delays. The whole point of this section was to give a sense of calmness and stillness, but actually if you analyse it, it's quite chaotic. But the overall picture kind of gives that vibe.
And then the sax solo comes in here. Then it has to shrink in all of a sudden.
Yeah. So an interesting thing about that sax solo was there was a guide track for them to do, but I think at the end part of that. My demo was a bit messy and cluttery, and I wasn't sure if I was actually happy with it. So I said, feel feel it, do some improvised takes as well, and see what comes out, because I think like giving a musician some freedom, like you'll yield better results often than what I'm coming up with. So what he did was he came up with 4 improvised tracks. He did it 4 times, and they all sounded different. And I wasn't 100% satisfied with any one of them, so I sat in my hotel room and sort of cut and pasted across the 4. So actually, the final solo is a mix up of all 4 improvised solos, and just pasted sort of together in my own sort of order. So yeah, rearranged by myself. But, so that's just an interesting fact, really, on how that was pieced together in the end.
I remember you complaining like you're not getting the exact thing you wanted, but there's enough there for you to figure it out.
I was really happy in the end with the sort of the final construction of that. But yeah, I to be honest, because I didn't really give them the exact notes, so it was I couldn't really complain. But really satisfied in the end. I think that the journey of those what those improvised solos, what he took, really paid off in the end.
Yeah. What else can we go through this song? There's a lot of stuff happening all the time. It's just like so subtle, because the song is very like how would you call it? Very delicate, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's only the orchestral stuff, but I think I'll go through that with Vic on his.
Yeah, I think he would definitely give it more justice than I would, because
he'll have a lot more to say, and because he took some really simple ideas and just arranged an orchestra, using just some simple melody ideas I had. So
yeah, just listening to the last chorus, it's there like.
Some of these interweaving counter melodies were him.
Beautiful. We should have gotten those louder in the mix. Doesn't it happen like when you listen to something back again, like, oh, I could have done this like so and so differently.
Every single album I've put out is something. Well, that's really cool. That's really cool, man. Like, I think probably covered enough like for this episode, and that's really appreciate it. I mean, this one you said really connected with you. Were there any favourites in particular on the records?
The surprising favorite was Year, I think, is I had to nail the explosive part.
Cool. I mean, I'm looking forward to people hearing this song. It's real simple. It's has a repetitive nature, but it builds up, and
that was a surprising. Like this one was also very special because I think when we got the masters and you sent them over, while I was first time listening to those, I was on a getaway somewhere in the mountains and just like sitting back in my in-ears listening to the album, and this came along and took me to another world, like the way from a listener's perspective, finally not from a mixer's perspective. I was listening to the album for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, so do you have trouble with that often, over analyzing things as you're listening to them, or are you able to let go?
I'm teaching myself to let go. Actually, it's very hard. If an album sounds bad, like if not production, if it was mixed or mastered and properly, it is a challenge for me to listen to.
Yeah.
But I have to get over that because sometimes, whether it is financial reasons or creative reasons or just because it was recorded in the 70s or 80s, that does not discredit it from not stacking up with the best of the best in the modern era, at least.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, my bandmates often comment on the fact that I'm able to fall asleep to music because, I mean, they can't, you know, they're just over-analysing the chord progression and what mode it's in and all this stuff. I'm like, just let go, man. Just feel it, enjoy it. And yeah, I mean,
It's hard.
I tend not to overanalyze things these days unless I'm working on something. So it's a. I guess
Can
that's
you
a gift.
split? Can you split? Like, can you have like a listener's mind and
Yeah, I think I can.
producer or artist's mind?
Yeah,
good for you.
I definitely can, unless, like you said, something really sticks out and sounds awful. But I tend to enjoy a vast range of stuff, so it doesn't always affect me. Yeah, well,
I'm working on that.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. Like, again, your work on the album was, I was really blessed to have you on this record.
Thanks so much.
You did a phenomenal job. You went above and beyond, and I'm forever grateful. I really hope we can work together again.
Looking forward. Hopefully this time you're coming to Amsterdam, we can do some of the stuff in person.
Yeah, this is definitely sort of the bittersweet thing about these lockdown albums that I've done is that they've been very isolated. I know we've been able to communicate in some form, but you know, we've not met in person, like skin to skin.
February, you're touring in February. I'm probably gonna see you here.
So yeah, it's a funny relationship we have in this digital age.
Yep.
But
Makes
having
things a
said
bit
that,
weird.
like I never met Jens Wogren for the Haken albums either.
Yeah, you told me.
This was pre-pandemic, you know. So this was quite a common way to make records these days, anyway, in normal times. You know.
Yeah, especially on the mixing and the technical side of things, mixing and mastering. If you're hiring somebody for the job and you've selected that person for based on references or whatever, most probably you're not going to meet them. So the budget doesn't help as well either. Like if you're a band of 5, you're gonna travel to Sweden for a week to finalize mixes on an album. It's not gonna be feasible anymore.
No, the budget's really there for the bands these days. So. This works. This works a treat. Really looking forward to everyone hearing this album. Obviously, and if you're watching this after the album's dropped, then now you have a bit more of an insight. Karim, what are you working on next?
I'm looking forward to doing something a bit not metal. So there is this like a small jazz thing that is lined up for me. That's really exciting because it's all organic, very little compression, very little technical stuff. Just enjoy live music. Yeah, nice. And I have on the other side of things, I have a super technical prog metal album lined up, where like I think I lost my camera for a second there. It's back.
There he is.
It's back. Yeah. Rohan Sharma, who I did his first EP last year, I think. I don't remember anymore, honestly. Time flies, especially in the COVID era.
Yeah. And,
so I have his next EP coming up right after, as soon as I get my setup running, because as you can see, I'm in a living room right now. I don't have anything set up yet.
No, just moved.
Everything should be coming in a couple of weeks, like the studio desk, all the acoustic treatment, all that stuff should be coming in. So I should be fully functional in a couple of weeks.
That's awesome.
Finally.
It's really exciting, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that was so you were based in Beirut last.
I
remember when we were mixing. Actually, you had the explosion happened on the bay there in the port.
Yeah.
Like big news across the world, and that was me like going, oh no, the forces are against my album. You know, when it all becomes about you, suddenly. Well, never mind all these like businesses. I think your own business was affected, wasn't it? And
very drastically affected.
People losing their lives tragically, and like I'm just worried about my album.
Yeah, I was delayed for a week. I was offline for just 1 week.
It didn't affect things at all. But that was crazy. That was absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Well, we're out. I finally left. No, I'm not going to go into the details about that, but at least it's a new chapter in our lives here, and we're super excited to be in Amsterdam right now, hopefully for the long term.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, man. This has been really cool.
Same here.
Thanks again for chatting with me and discussing this stuff. And
a pleasure as always. Looking forward for the next album or
Yeah.
EP or single or whatever. Just having some fun doing some good music.
I'm keeping you in mind in case I do live shows. If you're open to mixing the live shows, we'll see. Well, nothing's planned yet, but we'll
We'll always figure something out.
The whole original team will be intended to be a part of it if it happens, and yeah, well, I'll definitely see you on the road when I'm doing some Haken shows.
Definitely.
We'll meet in person properly.
Looking forward to that.
And yeah, cool. I'm writing the next album, so there'll be more material, I hope, in the near future.
So I'll be waiting for demos soon then.
Yeah. For real. Cool, man.
Sounds like a plan, man. Have a great night.
I'll let you go.
It was a pleasure.
But, yeah, till next time, Karim Sinno, the Audio Lofts. Yeah, for all your mixing, mastering, production needs, go check him out. Thanks again, man.
Cheers. Thanks, man. Have a great night.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.